Hello, my name is Joy Robinson. These lectures are about technical communication, and this series of lectures covers the rhetorical situation. This lesson is about the package, which includes the message and multimodal synergy. The package includes the message, and from that message we have a topic, a purpose or an argument, and tone. And we also have multimodal synergy, which includes both the medium that we use to transmit that message and the mode that we use. And we can classify those in terms of genre. And we'll see more about that as we move forward in this presentation. What will you write about? What is your topic? Well, topics can be broad, narrow, of various lengths, as we all know, but it must be appropriate for the situation. Let's take a look at some examples. If you need to provide a gun safety talk, you need to know who that audience is. You're going to say something totally different to teens than you would say to the manufacturers. Maybe with teens, you would talk about trigger locks and storage. With manufacturers, you might talk about safety at the plants that are making the steel and the various composites for the guns. If it's a dishwasher manual, you have a choice of a number of types of users. If you wrote for plumbers, you might talk more about maintenance and installation. If you wrote for users, you would talk about what all the nice shiny buttons do so that they can actually use the item. If you needed to comment CSS code, you would need to know whether or not it's for developers, which are totally different than, say, the designers that would really use the CSS code. So knowing who is going to be your audience and the other items about the rhetorical situation does influence which direction your topic will take and what you will write about, what goes into your conversation. Why we write is another thing that must be considered. The purpose determines what you write, the point of your writing, and how you make that point. All good argument is the basis of tech comm. And we have a number of choices that we can pull from for our purposes. Clearly, we can write to inform, persuade, educate, etc. Here are a few examples. You might want to inform a colleague about a problem regarding data that you've collected, and you could put that perhaps in a report. Perhaps you want to persuade a supplier to lower the prices for the next quarter so that you can come in under budget. Or maybe you just need to educate your customers about some type of software. Regardless of the topic that you use, you still must have a purpose as you create that item. There are specific reasons also that you must consider as you put together your purpose. And your purpose should fall on this continuum from neutral statements on the left, which are objective statements, all the way to the right, which might be persuasive statements, or also known as subjective statements. Some examples might be a feasibility report that's more neutral. Perhaps again, you're revisiting this upgrade of an expensive piece of equipment, and you want to lay out all of the details so that the decision makers can make good decisions about what to do about this item. However, if you are the contractor and you are writing a proposal to upgrade something and you want to get the bid for the job, you might create a proposal that's more persuasive. So you can see that your choice of purpose falls along this continuum, and as the author, you get to decide where you are between neutral and persuasive or objective and subjective statements. That strategy helps to influence the audience. Let's be clear, all messages have persuasion. Even this talk you're listening to. Through my videos, I'm asking you to buy into my worldview of how this all works. It doesn't mean I'm going to force you to do so, nor am I going to give you the salesman type pitch approach. Notice there's no blinky things, nothing to draw your attention to other than simple color. So this is more of a neutral statement, but all messages fall along that line. There are typically two ways used to persuade people. One is emotional. You can play on your faith or your traditions. And we see that a lot in sales. When people want you to buy something, they play on one of these types of emotional appeals. The other kind is logical. For example, maybe I give you something to read. Essentially, the persuasion there is for you simply to open it and look at it. I can play on logic or scientific evidence, but everything has some type of a persuasive strategy associated with it, again, along that continuum that we saw earlier. One example might be this image on the right. It's set up to display a drink of water or a glass of water, but it's not telling us what to do with that. It obviously is saying something about information. It's giving us information about water. This next image is far more persuasive, and it's telling us specifically through visual rhetoric not to drink the water. Tone is one of the other things we need to consider in this list. We may know tone from a number of things, from color, from music, but writing and communication also has tone. Tone is dependent on word choice and grammar usage, etc., in the organization of material. It can be very formal. If you still get letters, snail mail, as some people call them, you might notice that they're typically more formal than, say, email, which is usually a bit more casual. Sometimes your writing can be friendly. Your writing can be academic. There are a number of different types of tones that people can use to get their points across. This great quote by Susan Gay helps to express that information. It's a particular way of expressing feelings or attitudes that will influence how the reader feels about specific things. And we can show tone easily by how we gesture, facial expressions, etc. Writers, however, must focus on words alone. There's some other things we can add to our litany of ideas for tone: sadness, courage, tension, etc. And while some of these may not seem like they fit necessarily in technical communication, remember, TechCom is not only about writing manuals. Technical communication also includes sales, and sales means that we do need to adjust some of these more persuasive methods of using tone. Genre. We may know genre by the classification of books or movies or designs, but we can also use genre to classify the various categories in forms of communication. Again, these will be chosen based on the needs and expectations of the audience and the other variables in the rhetorical situation. We'll also look at genre in terms of the affordances, which basically means the best uses for those items and whether or not the audience can use that item. So, for example, presentations. There's a visual and an oral component to all presentations. When we decide to do a presentation, we need to decide whether or not the audience can attend, whether or not there is space, etc. We could instead make a video, and the video could be distributed differently. So we need to choose the various genres, whether it's a report, news article, or infographic, based on the rhetorical situation as well. In conclusion, the rhetorical situation, as we know, is made up of multiple parts. The package is just one of those puzzle pieces that helps to shape effective communication. Thanks for listening.